Crunchy.
Hello, Crunch community. We are back with another anime review, and me and John have watched Gundam Requiem for Vengeance. This is Netflix's not newest because I think Tomb Raider just dropped like 3 days afterwards. So this
Yeah.
this just dropped like last week. So this is still technically still brand new. It's only 6 episodes, and it's something different. I I would recommend this. I would recommend watching this, even though I'm not a huge Gundam fan. I just like the aesthetics. Like I like how uh, I like how the Gundams look, but I'm
Yeah,
not much of a like anime Gundam watcher.
I completely agree. I think that you can go into this completely blind, like not knowing any lore whatsoever from Gundam, and I think you'll still have a good time with this. It doesn't go very lore heavy. It explains their situation very well, and I actually think the pacing of this is very good. I feel like if the pacing was off, this probably would have gone just below average of your typical Netflix show, but because of the pacing, because of the action, because of how everything meshes together in 6 episodes, I think that's what really sets it apart and being, just above average. Um, and I think that, the parts that you don't really need to know much about in the Gundam series is that you can be invested in it because like it kind of does a lot of things that war movies do. And I think that there's still an audience for that. And if you really like war movies, it's definitely up your alley because it definitely goes into like a lot of those tropes and a lot of like that inspiring speeches and wanting to go into battle and things. So I think it does a good job of doing that. It really does a good job of inspiring the fellow man, doing what's right for your people and stuff. So I think it does that very, very well above anything else. Like its storytelling is very good. And I think that's what makes it like the most reason to watch. I mean, I'm not sure because like we said, like I'm not a big Gundam person. I don't know a lot of the lore. I watched a lot of the cartoons, when I was younger, but I didn't really follow the lore all too much. And like I went into this kind of blind when it came to like the story of Gundam, and I didn't feel like I needed to know much other than like that the Gundam was, one of the craziest killing machines out there, one of the best robots out there. That's really all I knew, and I mean that's all that I needed to know, I guess, and I didn't really need to know any of the backstory.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny how you say like this like a military movie.
Hmm.
I was like, yeah. Do you want it is very much like a military movie. Like it's 6 episodes long, so that's almost like a 2 hour film
Yeah,
essentially. Um,
almost there.
uh, there was a few hiccups in my opinion. With this, I thoroughly enjoyed the characters. The so this was Unreal 5 animation,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I have seen this. I believe this is your first time catching this type of animation, right?
Yeah, this was definitely my first time seeing something animated in Unreal 5.
Yeah. So when I saw it, I thought it was like a little bit uncanny sometimes. Like it looked a little bit off. And I really
Mhm.
love the Unreal 5 animation. Like it looks so realistic. I know you haven't seen it, but Love Death Robots does like an excellent job in some of the animation stories, and
Mhm.
they really worked it well with horror stories. I think like into the Oculus Rift or something like that is like
Mhm.
one of my favorites. I think there's another one with like a crab monster, which is really well done. And it almost felt almost like a video game as well. Like when the action was going on, I was like, this
Yeah.
looks like I'm watching like a cutscene.
Yeah, dude. I remember telling you that when we were kind of messaging about it. I was like, this really does feel like one long cutscene to a video game. And I thought that was pretty cool, you know, like being the type of person that played video games for most of my life. Seeing cool action scenes, like, you know, like going back to like Gears of War, Halo, Last of Us, Uncharted, you like seeing, you know, big storytelling games, especially like war ones, or when you have big action sequences, it feels so cool watching that. And being part of it in a show, I was like, man, I actually kind of like this. But going back to what you said, like there are some times that I don't think the animation's bad. I just think sometimes it's a little off-putting. And I think it's really during the slower moments of the show
Yeah,
where it's a little off-putting. And I think it's because we're able to like really focus on like everybody's movements, facial expressions, things in the background. And like I said, it's not bad. I just think it's a little off-putting. But maybe
yeah,
it's just me because I'm just not used to it. But maybe that's just me.
yeah. Well, I think they put a lot of their animation budget into the robots, like or
Hmm.
the Gundams, because that's where because every single time RX-78 showed up, it was so amazing. It was so like it was so all I was in awe. I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It was so epic. And and then like when you get to character like facial like something just wasn't sticking to me. I was like, this doesn't look right. But
Hmm.
oh my god, when they were doing the battles, they I was like, okay, yep, they definitely putting it into
Yeah.
the Gundam.
They definitely put a lot of the work where it needed to be. Like I feel like if they put more effort into like the slower part, like if we flipped it, they put more animation work into the facial expressions in the slower parts, and like the fight scenes were just lackluster. Oh man, I think it would have been, a completely flipped story. I feel like the story and the show is at its strongest when the robots are fighting and we have these back and forth interactions between the soldiers. Like that's when it's at its strongest, and then that's when you really feel. And it does a really good job. The writing does a really, really, really good job at forcing you to care for these characters and to see their demise in most ways. It's like, oh man, I was really rooting for this guy to survive.
I will say that I did not mess with the English voice acting. I did not care for it. I think after like two episodes, I was like, oh man, I just these like I didn't feel that there was enough emotion in the English voice acting. So I
Yeah.
switched over to I switched over to Japanese. Oh my god, such a difference from English to Japanese. The Japanese, I could feel that soul. Like I
Hmm.
tell you,
I
like
Yeah, I definitely feel that too. I would flip back and forth in between scenes, like kind of
yeah,
rewind like the last like minute or so, flip back and forth. You're 100% correct, dude. Japanese was the way to go.
yeah. I don't know what it was, and I was thinking to myself like, this is from Netflix, like English, and when you go to the subtitles or the audio, English is English was the so-called like the original audio.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'll watch it in English, and I did not get any feeling whatsoever. I think there was one where the captain she like tells everyone, and it was just so there was no effort. It's like take cover. And
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way. I was like, there's no way. Like her voice cracked or something like that. I was like, there's no way she did not try that hard. I was like, and
Yeah.
I looked at the casting, and the casting I didn't recognize any voice actors. Maybe I need to look into it again, but I didn't see anybody I knew that was a part of this project. But Japanese killed it. Like that
Yeah.
final episode, the last six
Hmm.
episode, that almost moved me. The whole entire fight, the last fight was like, oh god, this is good. And I was gonna give this like not a very high grade, but that the sixth episode managed to turn it around just because how powerful that last moment was.
Yeah. It
But
wraps it up very well. Very, very well. Like puts a little bow on it and everything. And I think that's what really brings it together. It really comes full circle for character arcs, for character developments and stuff. Um, But yeah, if you're gonna watch this, I feel like, if you don't mind subtitles, Japanese version is definitely the way to go. It
Yes.
just feels like there's so much more emotion, there's more visceral reactions to like the actual Gundam robot appearing, like actual fear, because that's like a vocal point of this entire show. Like it really paints the Gundam to be like this devil, like this executioner of sorts. So like it
The
really,
white
I think
demon.
they the white devil, yeah, they do a really good job at selling that thing as like this destruction Terminator type of robot, dude. Like they're genuine fear whenever this thing comes into the screen.
So spoiler alert, like this entire 6 episodes, because from what I know from the anime is the RX-78, the original Gundam,
Hmm.
is the good guy. So this is told from the perspective of the bad guys, the Zabu or Zabu, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
Zanu. Yeah,
yeah. So it's told from their perspective as they're trying to, I believe, take over Earth or leave Earth.
they're
And
about to actually take over, I believe.
right,
Like the
right,
battle had just won, essentially. Like they're
yeah, and then
about to win. They're essentially about to win the war.
yeah, and so then the RX-78 comes by, and he's just a better, faster Gundam than anything they
Yeah,
have. It's
yeah.
quicker.
The power difference is not even like explored at all. Like there's no testing of strength or anything, dude. It's just 100% leaps and bounds above what they got. Even with just the energy sword, the energy blaster, like cuts through anything that they got.
Yeah.
And the mobility, like you said, the speed of it was just uncanny. It moves around and it just dances around the entire force. It just decimates the squadron.
Um. Yeah. It was. They painted the hostility and the strength of the Gundam perfectly. Like there was just so many scenes where you just see the destruction it was making, cutting down foes, and
Hmm.
it felt almost like Attack on Titan, where like like, oh yeah, look at this like little pretty little white you know robot. Let's go beat him, and then psh, like freaking
Yeah,
hole through the chest, and it's just cutting down other robots, and it's just walking like menacingly through fire.
yeah.
It was such a perfect scene. And I know like a little bit about Gundam. Like I totally remembered when the captain, the main character on the screen, the woman,
Hmm.
she had sort of a visions, or like psychic future prediction. And
Hmm.
I remember that's what the RX-78 pilot has.
Hmm.
Iria Solari, badass name, Iria Solari. um, she she has that type of thing. They're like called new type powers or newfound powers.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
and my friend, who's a huge Gundam fan, he shared a little bit of lore with me that didn't like come into Gundam until like maybe like the second or third season. And so that was very interesting. He said like it looks like he told me that they're probably gonna start meshing all these like elements together in the first season, which I don't know if we're gonna get a second season out of this. It'd be nice, but I think they perfectly kind of ended off on a great note to where I'll
Hmm.
be I'd be okay if they didn't add anything else to this.
Yeah, and I think if anything, they'd probably like pick up at another point around this time period, with maybe a different set of characters, maybe also like calling back to these events, possibly, and maybe bringing back the main character and maybe one or two episodes or whatever the case may be. But I think it could definitely work, especially they pick up from different divisions, different points of view around this time period.
Yeah, the so the RX-78 pilot, we do find out is just a kid
Hmm.
later on, and my friend didn't confirm with me because I told him I hadn't watched the last two episodes, so I wasn't sure if he was not trying to spoil it for me, but it seemed like he was unsure if it was uh, Amuro who
Hmm.
was the actually the first pilot, and Amuro was actually also just a kid, but I don't think it's Amuro because they straight up killed him at the very end of the episode.
Well, they kind of alluded to it. I mean, they didn't
You
actually show the
you
death.
think so? They
Eh,
definitely cut
it's
through.
one of those things you don't really see the death, so it's possible that that there's a survival. So it's one of those things, and I think the fact that they didn't show it may be in their benefit because like you said, if they do come out with a season two, they can still have him around because there was no definitive death, no definitive way to say that he died.
Mm, yeah, I don't know if like there's no. I had to ask him if that was him because I don't see anything eluding that it was
Yeah.
Amuro.
Yeah, but I think a
So
good thing, like I said, is like you don't have to know any of this lore to get into the
mm,
to the show. So I think that's
yeah.
like one thing that's like to make it a pivotal thing is like you don't need to know anything about Gundams at all because they do all the explaining in a very good pace in the show. They give you just enough to know about all these things, and I liked how like when you were talking about the senses that the pilot has the main character that we're following, how she kind of has this, how they kind of explained it. Because I think they did a pretty good job of explaining it to someone like me who like had no idea about that. So like how they kind of explained it as like being a little more aware of your surroundings and how she can play these epic violin solos, and it translates to her being able to basically multitask and have this like sixth sense in a way. And I think they explained that pretty well. I had no questions. There was like no need to deep dive into more than what they were giving us, and I think that was a pretty cool thing that that was kind of something they shared between each other, and that's kind of how they kind of communicated. So I thought that was something that was very interesting, that they could explore later on.
Yeah, I the one scene I was like really amazed at was the whole like where she was playing her violin during like a little nightmare sequence,
Mhm.
and like
Mhm.
blood's just starting taking over the auditorium. People's eyes are just
Yeah.
blackened. I was like, wow, this is a very morbid scene. I was like,
Yeah, it's very
okay.
dark. I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm here for it too." Like, I'm with
uh,
it.
I was like, and that's really interesting. I don't know if Gundam ever tackles that, but that's very interesting to see, like sort of like PTSD happening to while they're in there, and
Mhm.
this like little robot wars. That's very cool.
Yeah, and then like that, like I said, man, like it really dives into those war movie type tropes, and it's one of those things that they can possibly explore. I have no clue if they're doing it in the Gundam anime, but it definitely works here, and then especially in the tone that they're going for.
Mhm. Let's see what else do I want to tackle. So going into it, that whole RX-78 fight with Ira at um Solaya at the very end.
Hmm.
That moved me, man. That definitely moved me. Just the whole entire voice acting where she's like, "Hey, we're good. You guys won. Just let us retreat." And then finally he's talking like, "Oh, so you guys could just attack us again?" And oh my god, it was just so much raw emotion,
Hmm.
and I really didn't know how it would have gone. I really wished if this isn't the end, I really wish that Ira would have died. Like, even though she's a cool character, I think it would have been like a perfect send off. And I
Yeah.
think I would have totally got taken away because I really was scared that she was gonna die. And then just a shocker that I didn't even see it coming because there's some parts where I'm reading subtitles and it cuts off. So I'm like, okay, something's gonna happen, explosion or
Hmm.
something gonna happen.
Hmm.
But it wasn't that right there. Like I think there's still a cutoff when RX-78 gets like
Yeah.
fucking stabbed
Yeah.
from the backside,
There
but I
is.
wasn't
Yeah.
expecting that. I was not expecting that. That came out so left field. Like from 1 second, that other robot that made the assist,
Mhm.
1 second he's out of frame, and the next second he's in frame, and so I was like, oh my god, and I felt the captain's dismay. Like, what have you done?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not sure if I like the ending where she's like, I'm gonna continue fighting. So I
I
to
mean,
where like
I understood it because what the point of her fighting was to essentially she wants to end the war so that we don't need to keep bringing kids anymore. So that was kind of like I get it. There's no other way around it. We have to finish the war. Like
it's just
the sooner we end it, the less kids are involved in it. I
it's
kind of
like
get it.
I gotta fight more kids to stop kids getting into the war.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean,
It's ironic.
yeah, it's one of those things. But what's the other solution, dude? Oh,
That
tell
is
me what's the other solution then? Because she can't just stop the war. She can't, and the only way to stop it is to win the war.
you,
I mean, it's not like she can convince her people to just surrender at that point either.
you're
So
right.
it's like, what really is the answer? And that's one of those things. That is the reality of war. Like it comes down to that. It's not nice. It's not pretty, but that is the reality of what war is.
And that's exactly what that one guy said in the car. Like this kid killed your entire squadron. This is war.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what
Yeah.
his name was. Chubbs. Was his name Chubbs?
I think it was Chubbs. Yeah.
Yeah, Chubbs. Uh, and to be honest, so even though I think Ira carried the show, I didn't really care for anybody else. To be honest with you, um,
I think the mechanic was good. I think he was a good enough character. Um, I what was the other girl's name? The one that also
Chubbs
had
is
like
okay.
colored hair.
I think that was Kale,
Kale.
maybe,
Okay, then yeah, her.
maybe, or Gearhead was her name. Gearhead
Gearhead, maybe. Yeah.
or Yuri.
Yeah, I mean, there was a handful of people I cared about, but I think the more of the story was like or her squadron, the little bit that we got to know about the squadron, I was like, okay, well, it sucks that these people are dying, like
Yeah.
you want her to protect them, but she just can't. She can't keep up with the Gundam. Man, but that they were terrified of that Gundam, dude. Like they were in fear
Yeah.
every time that thing popped up, dude. And I agree. Like I was scared for them, dude. Whenever that thing showed up.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see like this entire like journey trying to get home and trying to retreat while this like RX-78 is just chasing you down and just
Hmm.
destroying everything that's path. And I learned a little bit of stuff. Like I was like, okay, these mecha robots, they're like almost a dime a dozen, for the
Hmm.
bad guys. Because they I don't know how many RX-78 tore down. And like I was like, okay, it seems like they're also easy to make. Not easy to make, but they literally made like two from the junkyard.
Hmm. Yeah,
So I was
like with what everything that they had from scraps and stuff. I thought that scene was pretty cool, man. How they kind of molded everybody to do that. Because that was a pretty epic scene, man. How they just kind of took everything from the junkyard and was able to somehow conjure up two Gundams, or sorry, not two Gundams, but
yeah.
two robots, dude.
Yo, I thought that was amazing where he did a shot from like this one that was like still in repairs, like
Yeah. Uh
hanging.
huh.
Oh my god! And shots.
Yeah.
Um, LaShawn was all right. LaShawn, like I don't know if I felt anything when he died, and he made his noble sacrifice. You know,
I mean, he kind of had a bonehead moment, man, but he was all right for the most part. Um, it's just one of those things, like the way they're yelling at each other. She's commanding him to do things, and he's just so
yeah,
reluctant. But it's one of those things where like he wants to finish them off, but like she has those morals still.
yeah,
And I don't know. I just thought I thought it worked well. It worked well enough, and he was written to be that way. So I think for the most part, his character was fine. I think his character was fine for what it was supposed
Yeah.
to be.
I feel like this would have been stronger if we got like the whole team, and then like the team started dying like maybe like on the third or second episode.
I think
Just
that's one of those
like
things. Like I think it was just constraints, man. I mean, like I said, they had 6 episodes to do it,
yeah.
and
So
who
when
knows?
you
Who
said the
knows what the
pacing,
budget was?
when you said the pacing, I thought the pacing was really quick. I was like, oh god, like
The first episode's definitely quick. The first and
yeah.
second, maybe. Yeah, probably the first and second. First and second episodes, everything's moving fast. But I don't think it's too fast. I think it's just enough, and I think there's enough story elements to keep us grounded with what they're doing. Because, like I said, like once the Gundam appears, dude, like people just start boom, 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 like things start moving. But
Mhm.
it's one of those things like when you realize when you watch a war movie, like when shit hits the fan, things move fast, dude. And that's how you start getting to it's kind of like tunneling you into your story. Like, you have all this space in this room to go in different directions, dude. But once the element or the real threat of what's happening, like you start narrowing your vision of where you're gonna go. So it immediately turns into like a one narrative story with very few characters to develop. And I think it does it fairly well. Like I said, like it does have like its times where it's a little flip floppy and stuff, but I think it just works well, especially with the 6 episode constraint that they have.
Mhm. Yeah. I was like really surprised at like 6 episodes. Damn. I was like, wonder why. But
Yeah, I had no
so
idea if it was gonna be good or not, but I mean, maybe I was thinking that like there's gonna be a part one, part two thing, but no, I mean it kind of does its job in 6.
I will say this because I know it's been sort of like thought about and sort of speculated, but this made me want a live action Gundam. Like I was like, look, I was like, this is probably as realistic as Gundam has ever gotten in as an adaptation.
Hmm.
And I was like, I would really kill for like a live action.
No, dude. Pacific Rim is the closest we've gotten to a Gundam movie.
Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim is
Oh,
the closest we've gotten one.
no, that was fine. Like it's just like, what is
Yeah.
like the Spy Kids 3? Like how they're moving,
Oh,
like the
dude, no
giant robots.
way. I think if we got something close to Pacific Rim, dude, I think we'd be in pretty good shape. I don't know. I don't know if we're ready for it, man. I think we are, but I don't know if you're gonna satisfy all the fans. And man, I think that's with any fan base that you adapt, man. But I think it's there. I mean, we had Pacific Rim. I think it's there. If we had like a very small base story, that, didn't require a lot of moving parts, I think it could work. Like I think Gundam, this new Gundam show, like it didn't have to check a lot of boxes, and I think that was a good thing.
I so I am a little bit hesitant or scared because I do remember the Power Rangers movie, and just because Power Rangers jump into a giant kaiju robot, we didn't. I don't think we got that. I don't know if we got that. Do you remember the movie, right? The most
Yeah.
recent movie.
Hmm.
That was like for some reason like it was super long. I think it was like 2 hours long, and
It was a long.
that
I'm trying to remember if there was the big robot that appeared. I think there was. There was the one big robot. I mean, there was all like the animal ones or the beast bots, whatever they're called. And I don't remember if they turned into the one big one. I think they did. I think they did.
yeah, that's how unmemorable that movie was. That we can't remember the final scene.
Yeah, it was a while ago. I can't remember when that movie came out, but I can't
That was like
remember
eight.
how
It
what it
had to be
was.
like it had to have been like 8 years ago.
Yeah, something like that, dude. But I think we're ready for it, man. Because I feel like if we get something half as good, or not, maybe not half as good, but if we get something close enough to Pacific Rim, I think we'll be okay if we ever
I
got a
mean,
real life Gundam.
well, I think we're able to do it. Like Transformers are a huge hit, and that some movies are really great, and some movies are really bad. So it's like choose your pick. But I think a Gundam movie could work, and I think it could be done really really well.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. I think you just need the right, writers, the right adaptation, the right amount of adaptation to it. I think that's where it's gonna really work.
Yeah. But is there anything else to talk about? I mean, it's only 6 episodes, so I
Yeah,
don't really have
only
much to talk.
6 episodes. I mean, we didn't go episode by episode, but I mean, we kind of gave our basic, rundown of the show, man. And I really recommend it. If I were to give it a rating out of 10, I'd probably give it a like 6.5. Yeah,
6.5.
I think solid, 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 solid 6.5, and you can even argue a 7. Like I think it's
Yeah.
it's a good watch. It's your better than your average watch. It's very short. Like I said, it wraps up the story very nicely. And like if you don't go in expecting, the greatest show in the world, I think you got a pretty good war-esque movie or show in there. It's got very epic, inspirational moments, and I think the characters are there for it, man. I think it's a good watch. I think my rating is 6.5, man. Give it a watch.
For me, so I was gonna settle for a 6 almost throughout the entire series, but just that final fight, I think honestly, just going through these 5 episodes, and even then, it's still entertaining. The action is still very much top notch, but I just think the final scene of her trying to talk down RX-78, and they're having like this clash of ideologies, is so great in the Japanese, uh, sub that like I had to move it up like just an extra point because I think that just mm, holding it all together. It made me feel for the captain. Like I
Hmm.
started feeling emotions, and I think I'm gonna give it like a solid 7. A solid 7.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really argue, man. It's a
Yeah.
solid show. I like it's worth a watch, and I don't know if it pleases the Gundam fans, but if you look at it as like, just your typical war type movie slash show, I mean, I think it does a pretty good job.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts? Any more?
No, I think that's it, man. Give it a watch in the Japanese version. You give it a watch in
Yes,
the Japanese version.
Japanese
I
version.
think Japanese version is definitely the way to go. But if you don't like subtitles, I think the English version has its moments, but you're not gonna get as much emotion
Emotion.
from it
Yeah.
if you watch it in Japanese.
All right. So that was our rundown review of Gundam Requiem for Vengeance. Honestly, it's a good like buffer. Like if you have nothing to watch, it's not going to be something that's going to be probably changing for the year. Like it's not something that's probably going to make any rewards, I believe,
Mhm,
or probably going to be in your like top 10 animes of this year, maybe like top 30, or
mhm.
maybe or something like that. It's still it's only 6 episodes. I say give it a watch. I think honestly you will make your time up to that last 6 episode.
Mhm.
But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much. Make sure to like and subscribe. Let us know down how you felt about Gun Requiem for Vengeance. All in all, stay crunchy.